A sweeping montage of warfare across the ages, showing medieval knights, Napoleonic line infantry, WW1 trench soldiers, WW2 troops, and modern special forces, each holding their era's distinctive weapons, with some marked as controversial or unfair. Dramatic cinematic lighting, realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. A dark, smoky battlefield where old and new technologies overlap. A crossbowman, a Prussian soldier with a needle gun, a Gatling gun crew, and a modern soldier with a compact submachine gun, all in one wide composition to symbolize technological evolution driven by war. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. A sweeping montage of warfare across the ages, showing medieval knights, Napoleonic line infantry, WWI trench soldiers, WW2 troops, and modern special forces, each holding their era's distinctive weapons, with some marked as controversial or unfair. Dramatic cinematic lighting, realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. A dark, smoky battlefield where old and new technologies overlap. A crossbowman, a Prussian soldier with a needle gun, a Gatling gun crew, and the modern soldier with a compact submachine gun, all in one wide composition to symbolize technological evolution driven by war. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. Story 3, War Thunder. Ad/game visualization. Epic combined arms battlefield from a bird's eye view. World War II era and modern tanks clashing in a ruined city. Fighter planes dogfighting overhead. Naval ships exchanging fire offshore. Hundreds of detailed vehicles from different eras in one massive scene. Vibrant and dynamic. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. Close-up action scene of a player's viewpoint from inside a tank turret HUD, sighting and firing at an enemy vehicle, with planes streaking overhead and UI elements subtly visible, evoking an immersive military game experience without showing brand names. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. Collage of 3 panels. Left panel, a modern jet fighter launching missiles. Center panel, a heavy tank crashing through rubble. Right panel, a destroyer firing its main guns at sea. Each hyper-detailed to suggest a game with over 2,000 accurately modeled vehicles. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. Story 4, the Uzis submachine gun. 1950s Israeli military testing ground. Young IDF soldiers in olive uniforms evaluating early Uzi submachine guns, firing at paper targets. A designer figure resembling Uziel Gal observing with blueprints in hand. Desert hills in the background. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. Urban close quarters training scenario. SWAT or special police team in helmets and body armor moving down a dim hallway with Uzis at the ready, one operator covering a doorway, emphasizing the weapon's compact size and suitability for confined spaces. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. Global montage silhouettes of soldiers and police from multiple countries, Europe, Africa, Middle East, Latin America, all holding variants of the Uzi, with a world map subtly in the background, highlighting its adoption by over 90 nations and licensed production. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. Dark criminal underworld scene. A shady figure in a trench coat revealing a compact Uzi from under clothing in a smoky back alley, neon-lit cityscape in the background, capturing the weapon's association with gangs and terrorists without glorifying them. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. Movie set depiction. A director and crew filming an action scene where stunt actors wield Uzis, prop racks of Uzi clones visible behind the camera. showing how film and media cemented the gun's image as a criminal's weapon. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. Story 5. Crossbows and the Second Lateran Council. Medieval church council scene, 12th century Rome. Pope Innocent II seated on a throne in ornate vestments, surrounded by bishops and clerics debating. A scribe writing Second Lateran Council, Canon 29, with a sketch of a crossbow crossed out beside the text Anathema. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting. 16:9 aspect ratio. 9th through 12th century battlefield. Common infantryman loading a simple wooden crossbow while a mounted knight in shining armor looks on with concern. The crossbow bolt aimed directly at the knight's breastplate, illustrating social tension over such powerful weapons in the hands of lower classes. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. Dramatic action shot of a crossbow bolt punching through a metal breastplate worn by a medieval soldier, the bolt exiting out the back as described by Anna Komnene. Energy lines emphasizing its penetrative power. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. Holy Roman Emperor Conrad III in royal robes addressing his court, proclaiming the prohibition of crossbows in his realms, while guards display confiscated crossbows at his feet. Yet outside the castle walls, distant soldiers can still be seen training with them, hinting at the band's ineffectiveness. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. Late medieval siege scene, where crossbowmen line parapets and fields, loosing heavy bolts at advancing troops despite church and imperial bans, showing that crossbows remained a fixture of warfare until gunpowder weapons took over. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. Story 6. The Girardoni Air Rifle. 18th century battlefield comparison. On one side, lion infantry firing black powder muskets enveloped in thick white smoke. On the other, a small group of Austrian soldiers with Girardoni air rifles, firing with no visible smoke, their shots almost silent, creating an eerie contrast. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. Studio-style technical view of the Girardoni air rifle. A full-length shot showing its 4-foot wooden stock and barrel, with a detachable iron butt flask air reservoir and a side cutaway of the complex valve system labeled 800 psi, up to 80 shots. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. Close-up of the tubular magazine on the Girardoni with 20.46 caliber lead balls lined up, a gloved hand working the side lever to chamber the next round and cock the hammer, emphasizing rapid-fire capability compared to muskets. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. A frustrated Austrian officer in 1789 inspecting a rack of Girardoni rifles, some tagged as inoperable, while an armorer struggles with delicate valves and damaged air flasks on a workbench, symbolizing the weapon's fragility and maintenance problems. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. Time-lapse style composition showing a soldier using a long hand pump to recharge an air reservoir. Multiple ghosted poses of him pumping for many minutes, sweat pouring with a counter reading 1,500 strokes, 20 minutes, to highlight logistical drawbacks. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. Romanticized scene of Austrian skirmishers during the Austro-Turkish War, 1787 to 1791, using Girardoni air rifles to pick off enemy officers at mid-range with no flash or smoke. The puzzled Turkish troops scanning for the unseen shooter. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. Lewis and Clark's expedition camp by a river in 1804. Meriwether Lewis demonstrating the Girardoni air rifle to a semicircle of curious Native American leaders, the rifle loudly striking targets without smoke, expressions of awe and caution on the observers' faces, peaceful yet tense mood. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16 by 9 aspect ratio. Story 7. Serrated Bayonets in World War I. Grim WWI trench interior at dawn. German soldier attaching a serrated sawback bayonet to his rifle while mud, blood, and barbed wire surround him. Other straight bayonet types visible on comrades' weapons. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16 by 9 aspect ratio. Studio close-up of a 1905 pattern German sawback bayonet laid next to a straight bayonet and a wooden plank partially sawn through, showing the dual role as field tool and weapon. The serrations prominent and menacing. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16 by 9 aspect ratio. Brutal hand-to-hand trench melee, soldiers grappling in narrow, muddy confines, one stabbing with a serrated bayonet, the jagged teeth visible as the blade is pulled back, evoking the idea of increased tearing and suffering. Gritty and chaotic. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16 by 9 aspect ratio. Historical vignette of Ulysses S. Grant at a writing desk decades earlier, penning a statement condemning serrated bayonets as causing increasing suffering without advantage. His words ghosted into the air above an image of a sawback blade. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16 by 9 aspect ratio. Meeting of Entente officers examining captured German serrated bayonets laid out on a table, their faces grim as they discuss protests and the ethics of such weapons. Maps of the Western Front in the background. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16 by 9 aspect ratio. German soldier nervously removing his serrated bayonet and hiding it in a trench wall or discarding it into a shell crater, fearing execution if captured with it. The anxiety evident in his expression. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16 by 9 aspect ratio. Post-war Geneva Convention scene in 1949. Delegates in suits and uniforms seated around a large conference table. A projected slide showing a serrated bayonet with a big red X over it, indicating the formal ban on such blades in warfare. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting. Story 8. The Gatling Gun. American Civil War battlefield, 1860s. Union soldiers operate a Gatling gun with multiple rotating barrels and a hand crank, feeding metallic cartridges from a top-mounted magazine. A hail of bullets mowing down an advancing line of Confederate troops. Smoke and chaos all around. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16 to 9 aspect ratio. Close-up, technical angle of an early Gatling gun, 6 to 10 barrels around the central shaft, bronze or steel construction on a wheeled carriage, ammunition magazine on top, labels indicating hand-cranked, about 200 rounds per minute, clean background, realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16 to 9 aspect ratio. Richard J. Gatling in a 19th century study surrounded by engineering drawings and a small model of his gun. A thought bubble or ghosted image above him imagining fewer soldiers needed and thus fewer casualties, symbolizing his belief the weapon would reduce bloodshed. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16 to 9 aspect ratio. Late 19th century American frontier scene. A Gatling gun set up on a low hill, U.S. cavalrymen operating it against charging Native American warriors far below, dust clouds and muzzle flashes emphasizing the overwhelming technological imbalance, somber and critical tone. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16 to 9 aspect ratio. Colonial-era African battlefield. British troops in red or khaki uniforms with Gatling guns firing into massed ranks of indigenous warriors, such as Ashanti. Dozens of casualties under devastating fire, European officers watching coldly, illustrating the gun as a tool of imperial oppression. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16 to 9 aspect ratio. Late 19th century American labor strike in the late 1800s. a Gatling gun positioned at a street intersection with police or militia standing guard around it, facing a crowd of striking workers and protesters. The gun not firing, but its presence clearly intimidating. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. Symbolic montage of headlines and political cartoons from the era depicting the Gatling gun as a civilization versus savagery tool, with critical imagery hinting at racism and colonial brutality. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. Story 9. The Thompson Tommy Gun. Design room scene circa WW1. Brigadier General John T. Thompson examining an early prototype of his submachine gun labeled Annihilator 1. Blueprints showing .45 ACP cartridges and a compact automatic design meant for trench warfare. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. Prohibition-era Chicago street at night. Vintage cars, speakeasy sign glowing, mobsters in suits and fedoras leaning out of a car firing Thompsons with drum magazines, spent casings flying, capturing the weapon's iconic association with gangsters without glorifying the violence. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. Recreation of the St. Valentine's Day Massacre. Dim garage interior, 7 men lined up against a brick wall as attackers in police disguise fire Thompson submachine guns. Muzzle flashes illuminating shocked faces. Somber and grim tone. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. Contrasting World War II scene. Allied soldiers, U.S. or British, storming a ruined European village, some carrying Thompson SMGs with box magazines, using them for close-quarters combat against Axis troops, showing the gun's legitimate military role. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio. Warehouse interior in the 1920s, with stacks of wooden crates labeled with a gun manufacturer's name. Relatively few civilians browsing due to the Thompson's high price tag, $200 then, suggesting its limited early market before organized crime made it infamous. Realistic, highly detailed digital painting, 16:9 aspect ratio.